Hey, how you doing today? Welcome to the Intuitive Art Academy channel. I'm Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy, and this is Carrie Roldan. She's back, and we're so happy to have her. Although, if you haven't watched last week's episode with Sherry Reichert-Ballou, all about love, go watch it. It is such a good one. But today we're going to talk about funk busting. When have you felt meh or blah or just down in the dumps? It happens to everybody. And we're going to talk today about our favorite ways to get out of a funk. And I bet they're going to be different because Carrie and I were just discussing how different we really are. So this is a fun thing. And I think the premise of today's episode is that we have more control over how we feel than we usually think we do. So, and again, I'm not a doctor. We're not like talking about clinical anxiety and depression and everything. Like, get you checked out in the way that feels best to you. And we're not even saying that being in a bad mood or in a funk is wrong. It's not. Like, it's just, it is what it is. But if you want to feel better, here are our favorite ways, and we'll discuss. But if you have any questions or anything, put them in the comments. We love to hear from you.
I better open up the comments right now so that I can see them. Yeah, Rachel, it is so good to be back. It's been a couple weeks for me because I think you were gone and then I was gone. And so it feels like forever since we sat down and had one of these. And what a good topic, because in that time that I was away from these conversations, I went through a funk. And when you were talking, so this is encouragement to anybody, because my guess is if you're not watching us live, you're watching this because you might be in a funk, right? If you're not here with us because you're like our loyal viewers, but you're here with us because this video found you, then the first thing that I want to say is that this too shall pass. And that is something I don't know where I heard. I mean, besides, like, I heard it in passing, but when I heard it in terms of spiritual development, in terms of kind of living in this vibrational world that we live in. So remembering that like the only constant is change, and this too shall pass. And so when we're like, flying high and in the like best mood possible and everything's growing great, like we don't actually want to think that there could be a time in the future when we're not feeling so great. But when we are not feeling so great, it is really nice to know this is not permanent. This too shall pass. Even, and actually, maybe Rachel, this will have me bump right into one of the ways that I dealt with my most recent funk was just to wallow in it, like to know this is not going to last forever. And it's here for me now. So I'm going to go ahead and feel this. I think that the natural reaction for many of us, and even again, we are not doctors, but bouts of depression, feeling low, feeling not good. I wasn't necessarily depressed, actually. I was just facing some of my own limiting beliefs. All of that stuff is instrumental to our growth and development as human beings. We're not meant to only feel good all of the time, because we couldn't truly savor the amazingness of feeling good if we didn't have contrast, if we didn't have something to compare it to. So I just wanted to say that like opening up is 100% okay to be down. 100% okay to feel less than great. And it's 100% okay to be in the funk that I was in, Rachel, I don't, time does weird things in my brain. Like I'll say a couple weeks ago and then someone will be like, Carrie, that was 3 days ago. But that is because the energy shift is so great, right? Like it seems like a really long time ago that I felt that badly because I'm not feeling bad anymore. But man, I was in it. I was in my own stuff, and I was, I could hear the stories that I didn't want to believe anymore. And so the first step, my first step in feeling better, the first step is admitting it, right? Was just like being there, was stop resisting. That probably wasn't the first step. I probably resisted for days. And then I recognized I was resisting. But like stop resisting this awful feeling and sit with it. That was step number one for me. But I will pause and let you talk.
Yeah. If I'm really in a dark place, I do that consciously. Like, feel and breathe is my mantra when I'm down. Feel, like you say, don't resist it. Resisting it just prolongs it, I feel like, right? Because what you resist persists. We don't need to do that. There's nothing wrong happening when you feel that way. So I try to remember to breathe through it rather than holding my breath and like holding it at bay. I just breathe. If I need to cry, I cry. If I need to lay down or whatever, like there's no wrong way or right way to deal with it, but definitely not resisting is really helpful. It's helpful to let it move through your system in the way that it needs to so that it can leave ultimately.
Well, and that's what generally happens for me, Rachel, is there's a feeling that I'm resisting. So most recently, the feeling was around my worth or my value, right? So there was a fear inside of me that maybe I'm not as valuable as I think, as I want to be, right? And there was this conflict inside of me where part of me was like, I'm amazing and I'm incredible and I provide so much value and I deserve, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? There was that part of me, that very real truth inside of me. And it was juxtaposed with an old story that was like clawing at me, like determined to pull me down. There's something, this is like a parable or something, but I have a friend who, maybe it's a story. I don't know what it is. I have a friend who recently posted it about crabs in a barrel. Do you know this story, Rachel? So the point is like, right, like one of the crabs, it's a bunch of crabs in a barrel, and one of them finally like claws its way out. And instead of like cheering him on, the other crabs like pull him down to his death. And that's how I felt. Like I felt like a crab in a barrel who was like, I was emerging, I was like victorious and claiming my value and my worth and my amazingness and living more fully into the like incredible life that I have envisioned and imagined. And when I look around, I am living. And then there were the old crabs, like pulling me by my tiny little leg, like bringing me back down, saying, who are you to think that? And what if you ask for what you really want and the universe says no? And what's going to happen, right? Like all my old stuff, honestly, that I had thought was long gone, just reared its ugly head. And we were talking about breathing into it. And that is the thing that I had to do, right? Is I spent days not wanting to face that was the story behind the feelings that I was feeling. So instead, I was externalizing it. Anybody else ever done that? Well, but they said, and they're doing it, and they like I totally. And I was messaging Rachel several times. You are not going to believe this, and then right, like all of that was happening, or I was blaming. So blame is not something that I want to see in myself, like at all. And yet, it's a really easy place to go, right? Like, well, I feel this way because they did that. Well, they're to blame for the way that I'm feeling because they're an idiot, obviously. And so they weren't an idiot, but um, I was there and I was in it. And so it took a while before I could even get to the place of facing it. So I just want to acknowledge that. Like at first, there's going to be the externalizing. Just notice that you're doing it. I was aware that I was doing it and justifying that I was doing it. So I recognized I was justifying. And then the breathing into it. And how the breathing into it happens for me generally is it's the feeling is not something that I want to face. So for me, the feeling, the note, like that story around you're probably not as worthy as you think you are of what you're asking. I don't know if that sentence made sense, but like that's pretty scary thing. Like, what if I look at this? What if I feel it? And I come out of it knowing I'm less than I thought I was, right? Like, that's a scary thing to look at. So I avoid looking at it. Just like shout out to the truth for a minute here. We're never less than we think we are. Like we're all, it's never anything to be afraid of, but the fear is so real. And the what if, like, what if I look at this and I'm not worthy? What if I look at this and I'm not valuable? What if I look at this and I am a total screw up? What if I look at this and I, like, there's all of that. And so there's big resistance to those feelings. So looking at them can feel like, if I actually feel this feeling, I might die. I will cease to exist the way that I am. So I just want to like acknowledge that for you guys, because it's big, scary stuff. But when you do, you realize they're just feelings, and you never die. Like, you just feel them. And like exactly what Rachel says, when I breathe into them, I tend to breathe and then get scared, and then breathe and then get scared, and often feels like I'm falling down like a never-ending blackness. And I might cry. And I might, like, there's big feelings will come up. But not long after the fear and the crying, other feelings come up every freaking time. And those feelings much more closely resemble love and compassion. And I just thought of another way I do this, Rachel, and that is through tapping when I think about it. And it's the same thing for anybody who's ever done EFT. Like, there's the moment of the negative tapping and you're feeling all the ickiness. And then there's like that transitional moment where it's like, but even though, or there's like I don't remember what the phrase in EFT, but there's this phrase that transitions from all the horrible stuff you're feeling, and it makes a bridge to what the truth is and what you really want to feel. And that moment happens if I sit with my feelings for long enough. And then I don't even have to climb out of the dark hole, because there's like this, I don't know, swirling vortex underneath me that like lifts me up out of the hole. And it'll happen for you too if you just remember, I'm not going to die if I feel this feeling. But we've been talking a lot about like the low lows. I don't know if we want to talk about a little bit like lighter ways to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's a really good example. I mean, I think that's a good baseline to set, like, honestly, because we have all been there, and it can seem to come out of nowhere, especially these days. If you found this year that like the maybe handful of really deep triggers that you have all been pushed, I have found that to be true. Like, anything that's hanging on that I haven't dealt with has definitely come up for me this year. So that is a really helpful conversation to have. But here's on the flip side. I last week was just feeling like a little out of it, like not tapped into my joy. And when that happens to me, I really notice it, because usually I'm a pretty upbeat person. And so I like tried to do some of the things that lift me up. Like, I went out into my garden and I was like, it's cool. But my friend, who I haven't spoken to in a couple months, childhood friend, sends me a link to a playlist on Spotify that he created of like the one-hit wonders from the 90s. And that's when I was a teenager. And so it's like my formative years in a playlist. Just the songs that we liked, really, like the alternative rock and stuff like that, and grunge. And oh my God, it is the most fun and enlivening thing. I've been like singing it in my car and like remembering all these bands that I totally forgot about. My boyfriend and I, we played it the other night when we were making dinner, and it was just like that small of a thing of listening to the music of when you were coming of age or when you had a really happy time. that alone can just like make your mood soar. And there's so many other things, but like music for me is always, it can bring me up or it can bring me way down. And I learned, I just don't go to that low music anymore. I could maybe listen to a song here or there that would do that to me, but for the most part, I just use it as a really amazing tool for connecting with a better energy.
Oh, I love that you said that because music is not one that it's not in my um like back pocket arsenal of ways to feel better. But my God, it works for everyone. Like there's a story in my head that says I prefer silence, but it's not even true. Like there are certain songs, right, that you cannot help but just like love and dance to, and like they raise your vibration because they're high vibe songs. And I mean, I'm thinking about like for me, that's Walking on Sunshine, or that isn't there a Justin Timberlake? I know there's that I'm Happy song, but there's a Justin Timberlake song from Trolls that I can't think of what it is. Makes me happy every time I hear it. Yeah, that stuff works, and that's easy. That's not like deep delving into like what's the story behind my mood, because sometimes we're just in a funk. I'm noticing this as I am like approaching menopause. Is there are days when I just recognize I am hormonally sad, right? Like there's actually no reason in my life. There's no circumstance beyond the chemical makeup of my body that is causing me to feel this way right now. So I don't need to dive deep into what is this about. I just need some tools, right? I just need some things to do to lift my spirits. So music is one for sure, Rachel. I know you said you like gardening. What are other things that you go to?
Well, I actually just got back from the library. I took out this modern cottage garden book because I'm turning my backyard into a cottage garden. And then I have here, they just happen to be on my desk. I didn't plan this, but I have these beautiful fabrics that have these little twinkles on them, and I'm making some quilts out of this. So just color, I've got a shelf full of colorful nail polishes, and I put on some purple makeup today. And so yeah, I love color and I love being outside, even if I'm not actively doing anything, taking a walk. I love silence. I love meditating. For me, if I'm just feeling blah, if I'm just in a like disconnected mood, going in and trying to find out why or what's wrong with me, or why don't I feel more purpose, why don't I feel more direction, like all of that is fruitless, completely fruitless. I will know the answer to those things once I distract myself enough from that place to feel better. Or I can do intuitive art if I really want to know. But the intuitive art's just going to say your purpose is to feel good. Your purpose is to be you. Your purpose is to shine. Like, so I feel like whatever you can do, distraction is not a bad thing, my friends. Distraction is an excellent tool for helping you, like Carrie said, find that vortex that just naturally brings you up, because you really are naturally a being of love. You're a being of joy. You're a being of bliss. If you can distract yourself away from your problems or the negative focus, then you're going to find yourself in a really good place.
You know, that's a good way to talk about it. So I have lots of ways I distract. But like to sort of finish the story of my funk last week, that situation is not yet 100% resolved. And there was a story inside of me at the time that was like, I have to get this figured out by Friday. You know, like this has to be resolved. But the problem was I didn't want to make any sort of major decision feeling the way that I felt. And so there was that one side that's like, you're not going to feel better until this is figured out. And the other side that is like, you're not going to figure this out in a way that it's not going to resolve in a way that you want it to until you feel better. And so part of what had to happen was distraction, was like being okay with being unresolved in the moment, knowing that it'll resolve much better if I can come back to it feeling like this, right? Feeling good. And so that's what I did. And it it did take took a lot of faith that it's going to be okay, right? But this too shall pass. Like it wasn't terrible forever. And so, yeah, lots of distracting happened. Lots of like, I'm going to put it on a shelf and know that it will work out. And it's going to work out even better than I could have possibly imagined if I can get to a place of feeling good. And so, one of the things that I love to do is move my body. Like, if I can run outdoors on the daily, that is all the difference in the world. And so if it's a problem that I've got going on in my brain, the best thing that I can do is run on it. Like, people say sleep on it, but I don't think that really works in terms of like whatever you're feeling when you go to bed is generally what you feel when you wake up. But running on it like changes everything for me. It totally changes my perspective. And I've been injured recently and haven't been able to run. So I was doing other things. Like, I did some really, really gentle, like kind to myself kind of yoga. And then I did some like more strong, like lifting weights, just like different ways to move my body to like change the chemical makeup of my body. And that was a huge distraction, right? Because it gave me something else to focus on, but it also changed my emotional state. Other things that I was telling Rachel, I have this vibration plate and I love it. It's supposed to be good for um, like your stabilizing muscles, and supposedly it like will vibrate all my fat away, and I'm totally like for that. But it is also just about standing on that thing, pushing the button to like high vibe, and being there for 10 minutes being like, this is changing my vibration. And guess what? Every time I get off of it, I'm buzzing in the best way. Like, that's a nice distraction. And intuitive art isn't a distraction for me, but like you said, Rachel, it is sometimes the exact validation that I need, right? It's exactly what it reminds me of what I know to be true so that I can make that shift. So, yeah, I'm all for those things as well.
Yeah, I was watching a video. I don't even know whose video it was on YouTube, but they talked about, oh, I know. It was Wheezy Waiter, if you've ever heard of him. He has a good channel. He tries different things. He does like challenges and stuff. And he just came off of a year of exercising where he'd been a runner, but he'd never done like weights or HIIT or anything like that before. And he's got the dad bod and he wanted to make the dad bod a little bit better. And he has. But he mentioned a study where regular exercisers changed places with people who don't exercise, and the people who don't exercise started to exercise for 30 days. The people who exercised and stopped found themselves feeling like a low-level depression. And the people who didn't exercise but started found themselves feeling a lot better. Like one of them said, I feel like myself, but happier all the time. And I mean, we all know that exercising releases beautiful chemicals into our brains and we feel better, but it really does work. Like it's not just a like scientific thing. It feels good. It really feels better. And for me, I was always on and off exercise my whole life. Like I was an athlete when I was younger. And then in my 20s, I worked out like it was like twice a day for a long time just because I loved how I felt when I did it. And then I kind of stopped in most of my 30s, and I just picked up again regularly a couple months ago. And I can just tell you, like, it does boost your default mood. And Carrie can probably add a lot to this because she's an actual athlete.
You are an actual athlete as well. We all are, right? We're born to be that. No, actually, I was going to say that, and those same studies can exist for meditation as well, right? Like it's they seem to be polar opposites. One is like move your body like crazy and be so strong, and the other one is like just sit and breathe. Um, but one of the things that I love about exercise is that it almost always becomes meditative, right? Like you eventually, I say that I need to tire my body in order to quiet my mind. And I know that's why yoga was created, right? It was created for a couple of reasons to help you like be strong and limber and flexible and stable so that you could sit for extended periods of time and meditate. And I'm reading this book right now. It's called In Pursuit of Weightlessness. And it's talking about warrior monks and basically how lots of the martial arts training happened to support monks in their meditation practice, right? So they're like super connected and they're the same. Like I've heard similar studies about, meditating for 15 minutes a day. And the truth is, for both of them, I feel so much better when I meditate daily and when I exercise daily and when I don't eat sugar, right? Like all of those things make me feel better, more clear, amazing, like more like myself. And so I think it's so strange that they also are disciplines, that they're also habits that are so easy to fall out of. That momentum is a very real thing. It's it is people say, well, I get triggered when people say, well, that's hard. Because I'm like, well, what is hard really? But anyways, people say like, oh, exercising every day is so hard. And it's like, well, so is feeling miserable, right? But I do it. I do it too. Oh, meditating, I don't have time. Oh, exercise. It's like, what do you mean you don't have time? This is the thing that makes everything else in your life better. Make time. But I'm guilty too.
I know. I hear there's an Abraham where they talk about when Jerry tells Esther, like, if you don't have time, then that's when you really need to meditate, right? It's like when your life is so busy, you don't have 15 minutes to yourself. That's when you really need meditation. And that whole, like, this goes into another conversation, really, but like yoga and meditation, I'm sure even like Qigong and like Tai Chi, all these meditative forms of exercise, running, what they do is they bring you back to presence, which is the moment where choice happens. And then you're not just reacting all day, you're responding based on how you really feel, your truth. They give you that buffer, like they talk about in meditation. Like meditation gives you a buffer when something happens in your world, then you have a time to respond instead of just reacting. But it goes throughout your whole day. And when you're in the moment and you have actual choice, that's when you feel like time expands. It's when you're in. I had a day, maybe it was even yesterday, like it feels so long ago, where it was 5 o'clock and I realized that it was that morning that I went and did something. And I thought that was last week, like Carrie was talking about. It's like when you're in the moment, time disappears. Like you have no concept of it because it's just made up. Like being the moment's the only thing that really exists. And you can tap into that. And man, when you're in the moment, you are in a good mood. You are in a good mood because you feel yourself. You feel your energy presence, right? Presence is present in the moment and you feel yourself and it feels really good. I like where this conversation has developed to.
I know. I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, I don't really have anything to say to that. Like my conscious, rational mind is like, okay, bring this back around, Carrie. Like make the conversation, tie a bow around the conversation. But yeah, it's just reminding me. lately everything you say reminds me of what I'm reading. But if you've ever read A Happy Pocket Full of Money, it's like a classic and it's one of my new favorites. And it talks about exactly that. Like there's actually, this is going to bring me to another trick. Look at that. It brought us back without me even trying. That's what happens when you're present, by the way. But the whole thing is, right, that remembering, or the power of now, remembering that like everything besides this moment isn't real. Like that's just craziness to me. It's fun to think about and amazing and cool. And everything that isn't this moment is real, actually. Like all things are happening simultaneously. So like the paradox of that is really, really cool. Anyways, what was I saying? I was bringing this back around, Rachel. There was something about the power of now and a happy pocket full of money. And, one of my tricks is when I recognize I'm in a funk or this is not where I want to be or whatever, I can remember that I can jump timelines, right? That none of this is real and all of it is real, and go, okay, I dream of Jeannie moment, right? Like the like I'm gonna close my eyes for a second and wiggle my nose. And when I open my eyes, I will be the whatever self, this self. I will be on that alternate timeline where I'm feeling differently. And that alone, like that just recognition, I could totally jump timelines right now. I'm in a place where let's use an example from my life. I'm in a place where I am not really liking who my husband's being right now. Hold on. I have to be quiet because he's working upstairs. Let me take a breath and jump timelines to the place where it's all working out. I totally love and appreciate him. We have the best life, right? Like all of that is an internal shift. But I do this little mind hop thing, this little thing inside of here. It makes all the difference. What are you looking for, Rachel?
Well, I'm just going to grab the journal because we're here, right?
Oh, I do that every morning, by the way.
So, plug. You can buy this on Amazon. Just search Daily Alignment Journal. We have 3 beautiful spring colors right now, like a lavender fuchsia, this one like a chartreuse, and what else do we have? A light gray, kind of maybe dark gray. And it kind of brings you through what we're talking about. Like, what are you valuing? Did you meditate? What are you daydreaming about? What is your intuitive art for the day? Like, what do you want clarity on? And it's pre-paving your good mood, It's knowing I want this, I value this. I'm going to give myself a few moments. This takes me 10 minutes to do, and it does ensure a better day. But I want to bring up something else, and that is when I'm in that place, usually, not all the time, but usually when I'm feeling like a little low or disconnected or funky, it's because I'm not letting myself have what I want. I'm not giving myself something that I want. I'm telling myself a story that I can't have what I want. And usually it's not even a big thing. It's usually a pretty small thing. It just happened to me yesterday. I wanted a water feature in my yard. I always want a water feature in my yard, even if it's small. I've always had like a little fountain or a pond or something. And I don't know, for some reason I had this story in my head that I couldn't have one here and that my boyfriend wouldn't let me. And like, it was just the yard's too small or whatever it was. But then I realized like, that's a complete fabrication. I can absolutely have one. And I found one that I really like and I'll order it and I put it in and it's going to be great. And I'm making a new patio out there and I'm, getting some new patio furniture and I'm going to put it right next to that so I can hear it. And when I have the window open, I'll hear it. So it's like, it's so crazy how my whole mood, my whole day can be like missing, like I'm not there because of this one silly little thing, that if I actually took the time to be present with it, I would realize, oh, that's a lie. I can have that. So yeah, what, if you ever get there, a good question is, what do I really want right now that I'm not letting myself have? Or what can I give myself right now that I've been wanting?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. That's a question that comes up in coaching a lot, right? Like at least with one-on-one clients, where they come and they think they're talking about something, but if you ask that question, and I think we're all guilty of not asking it of ourselves, right? I know I need someone else to ask it of me, and then I have a major epiphany. We ask that question, everything shifts, right? And it could be as simple as you're pissed about everything, and what do I want right now that I'm not allowing myself to have? And it's another hour of sleep. Or, like it's like it doesn't have to be a water feature in your yard. It could be something. Permission is a massive one. Like with Rachel, right? It's not she gave herself permission to have a water feature, and then her world opened up. But so often there's like we think we need outside permission, and when we just ask ourselves that question, what am I not giving myself? The answer is permission to just do it. Permission, right? Like everything comes. So thank you for asking that question in this moment, Rachel, because I just like everything went, oh yeah.
Well, we are coaches and we do ask that question quite a bit. And luckily, sometimes we even remember to ask ourselves. So yeah. I guess speaking of, if you have ever thought about coaching with me and Carrie, you can. And it's very convenient. We have a group. So go check us out at intuitiveart.com/membership and you'll read all about it.
And it is amazing. And we are kind of amazing at what we do. And it is a group of other people on this journey. I think that is where I find so much comfort, is being surrounded by like-minded people who are on the same quest, I think is the way that I want to phrase that. We have an incredible group of amazing souls, and just like anything that, I mean, the beauty of this world that we're all co-creating is that when you make an aligned choice, it always turns out better, right? Mm-hmm. Like you think I'm going to do A so that I can get B, but the universe is like, oh, just you watch. You're going to do A so that you can get B. But while you're busy focusing on so you can get B, C, D, E, F, like, all of these other A bullet point, whatever, like asterisks, like all of these other things fall into place when you make an aligned choice. And I think that's amazing. So if you have been denying yourself coaching with us for whatever reason, right? It's what you really want, but you haven't given yourself permission granted.
Yeah, well, this is really related. Like what I love about what's happening in the group is that you come in and people do experience a very quick, rapid change. They know things are possible that they doubted before, like new sources of income and inspiration come in. Things are easier. But also what we're seeing right now for the people who've been in for a few months is the deep-seated things are shifting now. Like one person always has been in business for herself for over 25 years, never loved marketing, never wanted to do it. Her business was really on referral, and now she's enjoying it. She found her groove. She's like, oh, I get it. It's not about them. It's about me. It's about me enjoying what I'm doing and sharing about it. And I love seeing the deep stuff just go because you're focusing in a positive way on everything else. Like you mentioned in the beginning that, we do get benefit from our struggles, and we do. but I don't think that they're necessary in order to grow. And I know you don't either. I love growing through joy. I love growing through love. I love growing through alignment. And that's what we help people do, is like, you've struggled enough. You're going to struggle more. How can we help you to struggle the least amount and get, God, gobs and gobs and gobs more benefit from your life than you're used to? That's what we want. And that's
Sorry, my phone's ringing. I will mute.
I love that.
It's all working out, Rachel. No, I was just going to say that's what's called multidimensional abundance coaching, right? Is because it's multidimensional. We sort of think that I want to say one dimensional. I know we're like 3 or 4 dimensionals, but regardless, like we're like thinking this way. Meanwhile, like so much other stuff is happening. And yes, I like growing through joy too. And there's nothing wrong with you when you're not in joy. That's the biggest thing, is recognizing like, oh, I totally agree. I think about, in fact, a lot of the people who we have attracted in the past have been like this starving artist mentality, right? In order for me to live in my genius, I have to suffer. And it's nice to know that that's not true. It's really nice to know that that's not true. And actually, it leads me back to athletics and running. And one of the things that you and I teach in the coaching that we do, right, is about being relaxed, being in a state of receiving, being in flow, being in a place of allowing, right, being open. And as I'm saying those words, there are sensations coming up in my body, right? There's this feeling. And oddly enough, that is the same thing that I'm teaching my runners, right? Is let go of try, stop pushing so hard, relax. And even when there's work involved, so if you think about like a yoga pose that you have to hold for a really long time, right? There's the shake, there's the soreness, but there's also like, how can I relax around the work, right? While my legs are working, where else can I relax? Where can I um, and I don't know, it's sort of a metaphor for what we're doing, right? When you are going through the stuff, right? When your legs are shaking, where in your life can you relax? And that's what the group is so powerful at, right? Is we're all there being like, yeah, here's where I'm relaxing. And it's so inspiring to then watch all the miraculous stuff that happens. So much so that is practically my main job, is to point out, remember you were here and now you're there, like that. Like, because just like I said at the beginning of the call, I can barely remember how that felt, because once you're not in it, it feels like 10 years ago. Yeah, it's powerful, guys. Super powerful.
And I guess that is another way of busting out of a funk, is like, who are you surrounded by? Are you surrounded by people who will lift you up, or are you surrounded by those crabs in a bucket tearing you down? And I'm having to shout out Catherine today, because she actually emailed a few months ago with that exact description of like, what do you guys think about this? And then she said, don't worry, you don't need to talk about it, but here it is, like, it's coming up, we create everything, right? But if we've been tolerating things and we've been, coming into this awareness slowly, or maybe it just happened, like, our outer lives are probably not going to match what we have in here, right? Because that changes a little bit slower than we do. So if you're finding yourself in that position where like there's really no one supportive in your life, first, make sure you are supporting you in your self-talk and in your expectations. And then find some new people. Attraction will do that for you once you have been in your like self-helpful vibration long enough. But if you're not there yet, when I started this better internal journey, Awakenings Radio on Blog Talk Radio was really good with Michelle Mache. I loved her. Like, I found things to listen to like this, but I could just play over and over again and like create a little environment for myself to just hear positive messages and this kind of vocabulary. But you can also find groups of people that will be that for you as well, where you can share your celebrations and not feel like you're bragging or you're like going to trigger anybody. I love that. And I love that Carrie is such a genius at group because luckily I'm in her group and she facilitates for this group. Oh, yes, Liz, we love you too. It's amazing. And I love that you found us through YouTube too.
Well, that's what I was going to say, right? It was like, it's no coincidence whoever is watching this has found us, right? Has found, because you're looking for a different voice, right? Like that is, I know for me, here's what happened for me in terms of surrounding myself with different people. One, I didn't even really recognize that I was looking for other people like to elevate me. I remember reading like my net worth will be the same, it will be the average net worth of my 5 closest friends or the people who I spend the most amount of time with. And so that freaked me out a bit. At that time, I think I was spending a lot of time with my parents and like with other people in my. I used to be a teacher, and I remember like always hearing the talk about like we're not paid enough and like like we're not appreciated. And I never felt that way as a teacher. And so there was like that moment of like, ooh, I do not want to be in this conversation. But it wasn't like a recognition of you guys are going to make me my net worth less. It was just a recognition of like, this does not feel good. This isn't who I am. And I don't want to be a complainer. Right. So there was that. But, anyways, when I decided to become an entrepreneur, right, when I decided I'm not going back to a job, I'm going to find a way to support myself, contribute to my family, and be home with my kids. I was looking for like other people who were doing that. Like that's what I came for. I was looking for like, well, where are the people who are actually succeeding? And there were people who were like, I sent one email and made $12 million in 1997, right? Like there were those people. And I was looking for, and those people are great, but I didn't feel like connected. I didn't feel like they were aspirational. And actually, side note, I actually did find myself in a lot of rooms with those people, probably because I really wanted to be like them. And I recognized some things in those rooms that I was like, "Ooh, no, I don't want that either." Right. Anyways, long story short is, um, there was like an inner desire in me that I couldn't yet name. That was like, just show me this is real. Show me that there are other women like me who want to live vibrationally, who want to create their own worlds, who know it's possible and are actively doing it. And it, for me, it started with like reading books and listening to things just like you, Rachel. But it wasn't long before Rachel Archelaus popped up in my world and Jean Barry popped up, like other women who were closer to my stage of business, but we're already doing it, right? We're already like, they were success stories. And that is what's been so amazing is we, Rachel and I, and lots of other people in our circle, right? We are so much in a different place, vibrationally, financially, like all of it than we were when we jumped in with each other. But ultimately, we were looking for encouragers. We were looking for evidence that, like, yeah, this is super real, and there are other people out there just like me. And then when you get in that room, right, with other people who are feeling their way, that like vibrationally living through their lives and being like, you guys aren't going to believe this, except you're totally going to believe this. I mean, miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. Until we get to the place, Rachel and I have a friend, Roseanne. Roseanne is, I mean, she's like, she can make anything happen. And she has healed her own vision. She has like physical things that have been going on that people have told her you need medication or you need surgery or do whatever. Like Rosanna's like, oh no, I don't watch this. And so Rachel and I were just having that conversation. I can't remember what we were talking about now, but I was like, oh, I'm just going to Roseanne that. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and change that because guess what? There are people in my life who are doing it. So I feel like I'm on a little rant here, but it's just to say, surround yourself with people who lift you up. I went a long time ago, I went to a leadership event with John Maxwell. And he said there are two kinds of people in this world. There are lifters and there are leaners. And you know the difference. This was back before there was cell phones. So he was like, you know the difference by the way you feel when you see their name on your caller ID. Well, now everyone sees everybody's name, but it's like, oh yeah, right? You know the difference. And you want to be the person and you want to be surrounded by the people who you see their name on your phone and you're like, hells to the yeah. This is going to be a magical conversation. And that's what it's like in our multidimensional abundance coaching. That was a long rant, Rachel.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, like, this is part of, I mean, this is like how you make a systemic change if you find yourself in a bad mood, or in a mad mood, or in just like in a neutral place. For a long time, I was the helper. I called myself that even. I was the saver. People would call me like for counseling, like I would have friends who just wanted to like siphon off energy. And of course, I created that position. No shade to anyone else, but like I put myself in that place because I didn't connect to my value. I didn't meditate. I didn't connect to, what was real in the world. I was focused on a lot of negativity at the time, but I didn't know that because I was the lifter. I was like, people were calling me. Like, I thought everything was great, except that I didn't feel very good. I just didn't know it at the time. So, that changed when I decided that I deserve to feel good. It matters how I feel when I'm talking to you. And if I don't feel good talking to you, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means this isn't a beneficial conversation. And whoa, that changed a lot of things for me. And it didn't require confrontation. It didn't require breaking up with my friends. It didn't, like, a lot of people are afraid of that. But honestly, when I knew that, I'd already made an internal change in how I value myself. And I just continued on that path until everything worked itself out. So let your vibration do your work, always. But man, that was a really big change from attracting leaners to attracting lifters.
And Rachel, you really helped me with that when you say something, which is, if it's best for you, it's best for all parties involved. And so that if we're going to go with the lifter leaner analogy and they're like, oh, it's so-and-so calling. I really should talk to them. They're just going to keep calling me right? Like there's that whole like, oh, I wonder, I should just get it over with now. Like all of that. Like if you're feeling that and it's best for you not to pick up the phone, or it's best for you to cancel that thing, or it's best for you to whatever it is, it's best for everyone. Always. And when you said that to me, I was like, I don't know if that's actually true, right? Because I'm the same. I'm a helper. People used to tell me all the time, like, I need carry time. And I'd be like, okay, well, let me squeeze you in, like not recognizing freaking I need carry time. Like, but I was a helper. And it was when you're living your natural gifts, it's easy to give them away. And when you're used to giving them away, sometimes you don't recognize like, oh, I need to refill my cup. I need to there comes a point when, like you said, I'm feeling depleted. This is a whole nother conversation now, but oh man, I'm feeling depleted doing the thing that I'm saying yes to the thing that normally brings me joy, makes me feel depleted. That's all you need to know. Oh, it's best for me right now to not do that. Or it's best for me right now to book a trip to Hawaii, or like whatever it is. It's best for you. It's best for everybody. That was hard for me to swallow, but it sounded good enough that I was like, all right, Rachel, I'm just going to trust you. Like, okay, fine. Sure it is, Rachel. Because, right, I think there was, at least for me, there was a sense of self-importance. There was like, if I don't do this, who else is going to? But guess what happened? I said no to my no's because they were no's, because I was saying yes to myself. And those things that I thought I needed to handled themselves, right? It was best for everyone. Like that, they got a solution that was independent of me and just as good or better. It was amazing. And so now it's so easy for me to say yes to myself. It's so easy for me to say no to things that don't make me feel good because I know, oh, if it's best for me, it's totally best for everyone. Game changer.
Yeah. Man, I love this conversation so much. I just want to share Liz's journey with us. She's like, she found me. She's been making the journey alone, and she asked for proof of someone intentionally living vibrationally. Oh, that's so cool. And then I showed up in her YouTube feed 2 days later. I just love that. Oh, and I was talking about the first alignment workshop, the aligned up level event. Yeah, there we go. Like, I mean, yeah, our phones do listen to us, but I don't think she said that out loud. She probably just said it in here, and there I was. So I actually hear that all the time. People don't know how they found me. They got an email. I was like in their Facebook feed. I showed up on YouTube, and I'm letting my vibration do the work, and I really enjoy that. It's very nice. If any of you, by the way, watching the replay are here because you found the Work Your Purpose video series, please let me know how you found that and who shared that with you, because I think we've gotten almost 700 new people through that in the last month and a half, and I don't know where you're coming from. So please share if you're here from that.
Which is so fun, by the way. Like Rachel and I are just loving that because she was like, did you share something that we set our intentions. There are mechanisms in place, right, for you to come into our world. That Work Your Purpose series is incredible. It's just several years old. Like it's been dormant for quite some time. And all of a sudden, this, dormant volcano is erupting. And so that's so fun. So it is fun to find out why. And we don't have to, like, we know the bigger why is that because you were asking and we were asking, and now here we all are together.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap up this conversation, when I am in a good mood, when I've busted the funk and I'm feeling really good, I feel doubly good because I know everything really is working out for me. I am an open receiver right now, or when I'm in that good mood, which I am right now. And that things are going to find me. The things I've asked for are going to find me. I don't have to stop and worry and strategize. Like everything is being taken care of. And that might mean that I'm just going to garden all day or quilt all day, or that might mean that I get a brilliant idea for a new funnel. Like strategy and intuition are not opposed. They definitely are in the same team. It's just that I let my strategy come from inspiration, not from fear. So it's just so nice to be able to feel good, realize like, oh, I feel great right now. And then it's like an extra dose of relaxation knowing, oh, that's so good. Everything's working out for me right now. Everything is working out on my behalf just because I'm feeling good. That is an awesome feeling.
Amen to that. That's all I got. Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation, Rachel. Thank you guys for being a part of it. I hope that if you found this video because you weren't feeling great, that you are now like us, feeling grateful and relaxed and open and trusting. And I just want to do a last plug for the MultiDimensional Abundance Coaching Group. So if that feels like your jam, if that feels like, oh, that's what I've been denying myself, that's the thing that I'm not allowing myself to do, be, or have, then you can come join us. Rachel, did you say it was intuitiveart.com/membership? Look at me getting it right. And she put it in the chat because she is that good. Then join us over there. It is a fun ride and you won't regret it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching live with us. Thanks for watching the replay. Thank you, Carrie, for being here. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Everybody. Watch us as we do our go to commercial.
Awkward smiles.
Yeah.